Hello there.
Hey, it's James here, aka Picky Audio.
Hey guys, it's Rowan from DHRME here.
Hey guys, this is Kevin from DHRME.
Hey Abhishek, thanks for inviting me to participate again.
Hey guys, Ash here from C4 Tech on What's New.
Hello everyone, I'm Tequila Tea.
Hi, this is TechWorld and thanks to What's New for inviting me to this video.
Hi Abhishek. So you asked me which has been my go-to piece of audio equipment for 2025.
It's that time of the year, ladies and gentlemen. It's the end of the year, and we've got a little bit of a tradition here at What's New, where we invite a bunch of YouTubers and reviewers across the board to come and comment on two questions. And this time, we've mixed it up. We have invited someone from Twitter. A Twitter reviewer, TechWorld Ultimate, has decided to join us. Really fantastic guy. He puts in two posts what it takes me 15 minutes to say. Really cool guy. Love what he has to say. Now, I've got two questions here. And the second question, I think, is going to put people on edge a little bit, test people a little bit. We'll see. But the first question is very simply, what was your go-to piece of audio/tech this year? Let's see what they have to say.
Hey Abhishek, thanks for inviting me to participate again. You've always got good questions, and your first one is actually kind of difficult for me, and I think you probably will relate. As a reviewer, your question is, what has been your go-to piece of audio equipment this year? As reviewers, we've always got new stuff. It's always the new IEM, a new headphone, a new digital audio player, etc. So sometimes I actually struggle to go back and spend time with the things that I really want to spend the most time with because I'm always having to listen to the new stuff. But the one piece of equipment that's kind of been in my life pretty consistently over the past year has been this, and I apologize if I gave the same answer last year, I can't remember, but this is the Hibi Digital M300. It's an Android-based digital audio player. It's inexpensive. It is not very powerful, and it only has 3.5 mil. There's no balance connectors on this thing, which is why some people don't love it, but personally, I love it because it's small. The battery life is pretty decent, and well, that's about as much as I want out of a digital audio player. I guess I'll even say this, like this thing is my second M300 because my first one, the battery bloated, it exploded and I can't use that M300 anymore. So I bought a new one. Yeah, that's how much I love this little player. You also mentioned we could throw in some tech gear here. So I'll take this opportunity to shout out my Pebble. This is a smartwatch that came out 2016, I think is when this thing originally came out. And then the company was promptly shut down, basically. And for almost 10 years, I've been using a Pebble 2 with no support. But the company actually kind of came back of sorts. And basically, this is a new version of the Pebble 2 that is exactly the same as the old version of the Pebble 2. And so I've been enjoying using this new version of an old product that actually has functioning buttons, because the buttons on my other one disintegrated after 10 years of time. Hopefully that doesn't happen to this one, but well, there you go. There's my go-to piece of tech gear.
Hello there. First of all, big thanks to What's New for including me in this video. Question number one is, what is the piece of equipment, headphone, IEM, etc., that I've used the most this year? And it's one of two. So number one is the Meze 99 Classics V2 right here, and with EQ, obviously. And the reason I use it is because it does a very good job of passive isolation, and also I find it very comfortable after I bent the headband to fit me specifically. The other piece of gear that I've used more than anything else, at least most recently, is the Head Audio D1. This has become my neutral leaning headphone of choice. Think of it like a HD 600 with a better bass, or kind of like a Focal Alex with better timbre, something like that. I also find it better ergonomically than either of those two headphones, at least for my larger than average head. So those have been my two go-to audio products this year. Hi Abhishek. So you asked me which has been my go-to piece of audio equipment for 2025. Normally that would be a pretty difficult question because there are so many great products, but for me it has been a no-brainer. It's been the Tangem Force. I went with this one because it pretty much exactly matches my sound preference. That's what it comes down to, isn't it? It has that open back design, so the treble feels airy and shimmery, but the bass is well controlled. I'm not a bass head, so this has the perfect amount of balance for me in all segments, so that's great. I'm also using this bougie cable from Zickman called the Danube. It's pretty nice, but not really necessary. You know, the Tangem Force is already in collaboration with Effect Audio. They make amazing cables, so the stock one is pretty good. Now, I've also been experimenting with headphones in 2025. I've tried a lot of open back stuff from established brands like Sennheiser, smaller ones like Kiwi Ears, and I ultimately settled on this one. This is the Sivga Luan. You know, it has this wooden construction, pretty good open back design, but it has to be the most comfortable headphone I've ever worn in my life. Like, this feels like a pair of pillows on your head. I've had this for a few months, but this is actually not my favorite headphone ever. No.
That has to be this. I got this one quite recently actually, and this is the Verum 2. It came to me straight from Ukraine, and oh man, this is amazing. As you may know, these are planar magnetic headphones. It's my first pair of planar ones ever, and even though these are open back by design, it comes with this magnetic back panel thingy, which you can pretty much just attach and make this closed back. I have never seen that before in a headphone, and yes, you can tell the sound stage changing when you're closing it down. The ear cups are also magnetic, and they just hold on to the speaker's magnet itself directly. That's so clever. And of course, they sound phenomenal. I think these are the best sounding headphones I've tried all year. Probably all time as well. And this is all pretty much made by one guy, This one inventor's DIY project has turned into something really amazing. So it's pretty special to me for those reasons, which is why I'm gonna call this the best product I've tried in 2025. So there you have it. These two are my go-to choices for this year. Tangent Force as my IEMs and Verum 2 as my headphones.
Hey guys, this is Kevin from DHRME. And Abhishek, thanks again for having me back on your end of year video. So you sent over 2 questions. Let's get started with those because there's been a ton of things that happened this year. Your first question was, what has been your go-to piece of audio equipment this year and why? Well, fortunately, there isn't one piece of audio equipment. Come on, we do this reviewing for a reason, right? So first up is gonna be the Bose Quiet Comfort Ultra 2s. I've been a big fan of Bose's products, especially the Quiet Comfort series, because they're quiet and they're comfortable, especially for me. But what they've really done with the Gen 2 is they've made them a lot better than the Ultra's Gen 2, or Gen 1 rather. But the thing is, with the Gen 2s, they've improved on the Gen 1s considerably. They've kept the same comfort and ANC and all of that, but they've made it more stable with the app, with connections, but they've improved multi-point. That's something a lot of people don't talk about, is that they've now introduced, secretly, pull connect. So they stay connected to 2 devices, but if you have a third device that you want to connect to, you just select it and they connect. So being in an ecosystem, multiple laptops, multiple phones, multiple devices, this is really useful. And right now in the Netherlands, it's super cold, so these are great earmuffs too. Apart from that, I'm not only using over-ear headphones because when I'm working out, especially when I go for a run, I prefer to have open ears. And recently, at least the last few months, I've been using, and recently, at least over the last few months, I've been using Shox's products, namely the Open Fit 2 or 2 Plus, doesn't really matter. And the reason I really like them is they hug my ears. They don't bob up and down when I'm running because that's not what you want. And also because I'm a buttanophile. I just like buttons. When you're running, you don't want to be fumbling around with touch controls, so buttons come in clutch. So love that. And then there's one last third audio product that I gravitate to, but that's usually because I'm feeling super lazy. I'm just at my desk and I'm like, I don't want to think about it. I grab the AirPods Pro 3s. Why? Again, I'm in the Apple ecosystem. I have a MacBook, I have an iPhone, and I don't want to think about it too much. It just works. I know it's a bad excuse, but yeah, they're a good product for sure. So there's nothing to say about that.
Hey guys, it's Rohan from DHRME here. Thanks Abhishek once again for having us on the first question. I think my favorite products this year are different from what have been my go-to piece of audio, so I'll try to answer that in 2 parts. I think couple of products that really came out which I thought were just made a lot of sense was the Sennheiser HDB 630, great sounding wireless headphones, and Sennheiser finally seems to have realized its heritage and brought that to wireless headphones, whereas the Momentum were always kind of a lifestyle product, which I guess has a place, but they brought their audiophile heritage to wireless, and I'm really happy about that. It really feels very authentic. The second product, which I am super excited about, and we just reviewed on our channel recently, is the Fairphone's Fairbuds XL. And oh my god, to make an IP54 rated set of headphones that can do noise cancelling and sound pretty fine actually, look good, and where parts can be completely replaced and repaired using just a Phillips head screwdriver, I think they deserve a lot of credit for what they're doing and at that price point. So whether or not Fairphone as a company, thrives, I hope they do. I hope at least what they're doing, the innovations that they're pushing for repairability, filter down through to the rest of the industry. I know there are other companies like Bayer and stuff who are also doing great stuff, but for me, Fairphone is the leader in this space, and the Fairbuds excel. If you care about longevity and sustainability and repairability, things like that, definitely check them out. And what I've actually been using this year is because I started wearing glasses. I like open ear products, so I was using hook style before this, but I realized clip style open earbuds are much better with glasses. So I've been using the Shox Open Dots 1, and oh my god, this was such a revelation. I love the Huawei Free Clip and the Free Clip 2 as well, but the Shox somehow is the one product that stuck with me throughout the year. So, and of course, since we're audio reviewers, we've been cycling through a lot of products. So there's that.
Hi, this is TechWorld, and thanks to What's New for inviting me to this video. My go-to IEMs this year have been the Zigot Horizon and also the KVO's Astral. The Zigot Horizon is one of my favorite launches this year because it cuts down on the excessive lower mids and the mid bass of the new meta tunings while also maintaining a very bright overall tonality, but still having that good mid bass quality that we associate with other contrasty Harman IEMs. They've pulled it off in a very satisfying, well-rounded way. While some people might find the upper treble spikes a bit scary and might contribute to some unnatural timbre of sharper instruments, I still feel like it's a very well-balanced presentation overall. And if I actually want more sub-bass, more mid-bass, and a bit more thickness, the KVO's Astral takes care of that. The fit is not for everyone, but apart from that, the IEM is overall very good, and it also offers good mid-bass quality, which most new meta sets unfortunately do not offer for some reason. And an honorable mention goes to the Zigot Crescent. While the sub-bass definition and subjective aspects of it might not be the best, the mid-bass quality and the impact of the slam overall, the dynamics of it, it's one of the best presentations I have heard this year, partially thanks to this overall bright presentation. You can see these upper treble spikes, you can see they've slightly boosted the upper mid-range.
Hello everyone, I'm Tequila T. So the first question, what has been your go-to piece of audio equipment this year and why? This year, I think I've used JLab JBEDs more than IEM or any other product. It's very underrated, especially inside India. People do not use JLabs as much. But for me, it's really comfy and has a good sound also.
Go-to piece of tech this year, once again, I'm going to have to go with an INEO. It's the INEO Pocket TS. This is a dual screen handheld. Last year I had a lot of fun with the Pocket Evo, and this year for the past few weeks at least I've been playing around with the Pocket TS. It's just been insane. Playing 3DS games on this has been amazing, and it also got enough power to play Switch titles. And it packs in a high capacity battery, so I've been able to play on it for a long period of time. Add to it the fact that it's got an actual AMOLED screen up top, 7 inches. It's the same screen from the device I mentioned last year, the Pocket Evo. So it's an OLED screen. It's great if I wanted to stream something onto it. It's great for playing Switch games, and I've actually been using it as my primary tablet of sorts. I've been watching videos on it and whatnot. And that's basically because I really love that flip form factor. Because when in bed, I don't need to hunt for a stand to prop my tablet up. I can just flip it open, watch what I want, and when I'm done, just close it and be done with it. That's one of the reasons I really love the flip form factor. It's very easy to carry around, very easy to transport. So anyways, this year, my favorite piece of tech has got to be the INEO Pocket DS.
Hey, it's James here, aka Picky Audio. Thanks a lot to Abhishek for inviting me on this end of year wrap up. I think it's a great idea. But I'll jump straight into my number one audio product. If I only had to choose one, it's going to be the AirPods Pro 3. They've just been the audio product that I've used the most, mainly because I prefer in-ear earbuds and I am in the Apple ecosystem. I'm deep in it. But it's not just that, I think they sound great. They have the best noise cancelling and transparency mode. But what impressed me the most is all the extras like the heart rate monitor in each earbud, the live language translation. They can be used as a pretty decent hearing aid. Now, I personally don't use many of these features, but it's a fact Apple was able to squish so much tech into a tiny earbud. So that's why I awarded them Best Earbud of 2025 in my awards video. My only complaint with them is the comfort. I still think the AirPods Pro 2 are more comfortable, and I still use the AirPods 4 ANC quite a bit. Again, they're just more comfortable for my ears. But now I do need to mention my runner-up earbud here. It's the OnePlus Buds 4. I still think they're the best value audio product you can get right now. They cost me just over 100 Aussie dollars as I got them on AliExpress. Fuck me, almost killed me. Let's fix that up. and they've been one of my go-to earbuds for exercising with their dynamic sound, but you still get pretty decent clarity. You also get features seen on flagship earbuds like an adaptive transparency mode, swipe control for volume, and their call quality in windy conditions is up there with the most expensive earbuds I've tested. And they've just been a very reliable, well-built product, definitely worth the money.
And now that you've heard from them, it's time for me to answer the same question. My go-to piece of tech and audio this year, honestly, it's a small handful of things. Audio-wise, it's been the AirPods Pro 3, but mostly because of the iPhone 17 Pro, which has made content creation really easy alongside my DJI Osmo Pocket 3, so much so that I have not touched my Sony camera this year almost at all. So these are effectively my go-to, but if it weren't for the AirPods, if it weren't for the iPhone, my favorite piece of audio is not a headphone, is not a wired earphone, although there have been some interesting wired earphones this year. Shout out the Punch Audio Martillo and the Zigat Luna. Surprisingly good entry as well, and a couple of others, but my go-to has been the Technics AZ100. That thing has been amazing, pretty good noise cancelling, phenomenal noise handling for microphone quality. If you're in a crowded environment, you're taking a call, that is the one you want. But also just out-of-the-box sound quality is pretty good. Little bit of EQ, just drop the bass and it becomes amazing. I have truly missed it. The reason it is no longer in rotation, I ran it over with my car. I kid you not. It fell out of my pocket. I drove my car out of the driveway. I went all the way, did whatever I had to, came back, backed it up over the right earphone, I think it was. And I found out when I got out of the car, I was looking for my earphones. I looked down. Oh, there it is. Oh no, it's squashed. That is an expensive mistake. But that has been, before that, it was easily my go-to piece of audio equipment. And I would easily recommend it. The prices are going to come down in the future, but the earbud is still going to be good. Technics AZ100 for me this year. Easy. Which brings me to question number 2. Question number 2 is interesting because it throws everyone for a little bit of a loop and it goes against actually the bread and butter of what it is to be a reviewer. I asked people basically that, is good audio basically a solved problem? Like, we know what it takes, and over the last 10 years, it has become increasingly difficult to find a bad audio product. You can still find them, of course, but there's so much good audio. It used to be 10 years back that you'd have to spend $1,000 plus. Now, for $250, you can get something that is very easily, conceivably somebody's end game. Like, it's that good these days. So the question is, are we just nitpicking? Are we just sweating the small stuff? Let's see what they have to say.
Your third question is definitely a big question. Is audio basically a solved problem? And I hope I'm interpreting this correctly because I feel like there's a couple of ways I could answer it. But I'm going to say this. I think audio for source gear is a solved problem. That is my perspective. I appreciate that a bunch of people disagree with me, but I think cables, I think source media files, I think amps and DACs, they basically all sound the same to me. And where there is still a very large unsolved problem is at the frequency response that we all hear at our eardrums. So that means that IEMs, headphones, ostensibly speakers and stuff are still, in my opinion, an unsolved problem. And I think it's for kind of 2 reasons. One is there's just a lot of complexity when audio has to exit kind of the digital realm and enter the analog realm of this world where our ears and our anatomy and stuff all play a part in how things sound. But I also think that there's also the complexity of preference, because I think preference is real. I think there is a difference of preference. And finding the marriage of this is obviously difficult. I think probably there are 2 things that we're going to see more of, either in 2026 or maybe even just in the greater future of audio. 2 things that I think can help with this problem. One is I would love to see just more personalization options. So maybe, I can't believe I'm saying this, maybe more tuning switches on IEMs, but tuning switches that are targeted to do actually very specific things. Also just parametric EQ. Can we please get more of that in Bluetooth stuff? Because I think those sorts of personalizations are going to help. The other thing is going to be maybe a difficult thing for passive wired audio stuff to do, which is honestly the stuff I'm most interested in, but more active systems, right? I think like Bluetooth headphones, the AirPods did a good example, or they show you an example of how to do active systems where the headphone is like responding to the condition of your ear and adjusting its frequency response to try and give you the correct solved for frequency response. Apparently the Bose Ultra Comfort Ultras, I don't know those headphones, but apparently those things also do a pretty similar thing in the mid-range. And I think that those are the sorts of problems that still need to be solved, and the active systems is probably the best way to solve for it. The alternative is you just have a whole lot of different options. You spam options and then you find the one that you want out of a lot of trial and error, which is kind of the hobby that we're into. To be honest, I don't want that to go away, so I'm okay if a passive wired IEM can't solve that problem necessarily. But yeah, I guess that is kind of my long-winded answer to, is audio solved for? I don't think so, because I think there's a couple of really big problems to solve for, and there's only a couple of companies that are really trying to do it. And I feel like even with them, we're still at the beginning. Anyway, Abhishek, again, thanks for inviting me. It's 2026, holy moly. Happy New Year. See you around.
Is good audio basically a solved problem? And my answer to this is yes in theory, no in practice. Yes, we have a good understanding of what the headphone condition requires and also what people like when it comes to sound quality in headphones. No, that has not been optimally achieved yet in terms of the products that actually get released. But I do have to say, it feels like this year we've gotten a lot closer than we have in previous years. Many of the headphones that have come out this year that have been really good and well received are headphones that have done a better job of this than in the past. So I'm encouraged by that, but I'm also encouraged by products that are pushing the envelope when it comes to things like accounting for the canal transfer function, things like accounting for our individual anatomy, our HRTF, that sort of thing, trying to be a better fit with what our brain expects sound to be at our eardrums. And the more that that is recognized, the more we understand how these things actually perform on human heads, on real human heads, and products get developed in response to that, in recognition of that, the closer we get to realizing that theoretical ideal. But that's just how I feel about it. I'm sure there's going to be other people who feel differently.
Your second question is good audio basically a solved problem? And are we just sweating the relatively small stuff now? I haven't been sweating audio quality for a long time. I mean, there hasn't been anything that came by in the last years where I thought, damn, I cannot listen to my music on these, or damn, I cannot listen to podcasts on these. Damn, the ANC is bad, damn, the mics are bad. Yes, that is something I'm bothered about. But sound quality, and as you know, on DHRME, I'm not the one that bothers about sound quality that much. I leave that one up to Rowan. So yeah, that's that. Let's go see what he has to say about it.
Is audio basically a solved problem? Yes and no. I think we are in this audiophile bubble on YouTube where we think about things like end game headphones, where we think about things like frequency responses. I think for 90% of the world, they don't care. They just care if it's got enough bass and if it's loud enough. And I think we've solved that. On the audiophile side of things, what is really interesting to me, and as a channel, that reviews wireless products, the real-time adjustment of sound with the microphones inside the ear, things that the Bose Quiet Comfort buds and headphones are doing, things that AirPods Pro are doing. I think that's really exciting. I think that might bring us towards endgame, because that ensures a consistent sound, irrespective of your head and skull shape or size. So I'm really excited to see what's happening on that front. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Happy holidays from DHRME. Gooey.
Is good audio a solved problem? For audiophile-centric products, I think yes, we are still nitpicking things in terms of IEMs and open backs, but for consumer-centric closed backs or consumer-centric TWS, it is far from a solved problem, because we've seen how OnePlus has tuned the Buds 4, how Realme has tuned the Buds S7 Pro, how even Samsung and Apple have tuned their new flagship TWS. The Apple AirPods Pro 3 was, except for the improvements in ANC, it wasn't very well received in terms of the sound, and the Galaxy Buds C Pro just excessively boosted the bass shelf. So I do not think it is a solved problem for any mainstream consumer product, except a few rare exceptions. And the close-back world is no better. The Sennheiser HDB 630, which is one of the best close-back tunings ever, it remains a niche product that is not as appealing to the masses as, say, the AirPods Max or maybe the Sony XM4 and XM5. And speaking of IEM specifically, I have a problem with the way mid-bass is tuned on most new meta IEMs, especially on more recent sets like the KE4 or the Odyssey 2 or the Moondrop Meteor. I have seen many sets have this issue where the sub-bass is great, but the mid-bass just isn't that good. It's bloomy, it's kind of soft. The way it lands, the impact of kick drums is completely missing. While I have to use subjective language to describe it, such as the sharpness of the initial transient or something, it doesn't sound very satisfying as a lot of other sets did. I have noticed that brighter tunings such as the Astral or the Horizon or the Crescent do not have this problem, but sets that are tuned with a darker overall tilt tend to have this weird non-snappy mid-bass, which is just not at all enjoyable for some genres, like especially ones which involve kick drums in pop music, where the mid-bass just does not have sufficient impact, or it does not have sufficient sharpness. I'm finding it difficult to describe in exact terms, but I hope people who have heard these sets will be able to get an idea, especially if you A-B with a set that has good bass quality, such as the Blessing 3, the Dusk, or the Softios Volume S, or maybe even the Quintet, or any Harman set for that matter. So if someone can help me figure this out, please tell me in the comments. Again, that's it. Thanks to What's New for having me.
Now I know these are pretty expensive products. Some of you may be looking at the prices like, man, $500? Do I really have to spend that much? Well, short answer is no. Obviously not. I've had the chance to explore so many IEMs in the last 1 or 2 years that I know for a fact you don't have to spend this much. You can get something like the KZ Vader Pro. That thing is incredible, like insane value for that money. And if you want planar stuff, get the KZ PRX. These are significantly, like literally 10 times affordable than these. Now, do you notice a difference between a $500 product and a $50 product? Yes, of course. Just like how you would notice a difference between a Swift and a Maybach S-Class. And while there is a difference, the price difference is significantly more, and the diminishing returns is very much a real thing. You don't have to buy a $400 or $500 product. The basic ones that you get are still okay. But my suggestion would simply be this. Don't go for the cheapest one, like the bottom of the barrel cheapest product. Try to go for 1 or 2 steps above that. You don't have to buy the topmost thing, and this is true for any product. I mean, that's true for smartphones too, these are like really expensive, but I recently bought a phone for my dad that's literally 1/5 the price of this, and that does basically everything. Now sure, this has better cameras, nicer display, premium build. There is a difference, but it's not worth 5x the difference in price. So short answer is, for audio, you don't have to spend crazy amounts. There are any number of amazing sounding IEMs and headphones present in affordable prices. The only time when you should go for something like this is when you can easily afford it, when the $500 price tag doesn't seem that scary to you. I'm sort of entering that territory now. I can afford these things without worrying too much. Like, I don't have to budget for these things. I can just buy them. So that's why I'm here. But 5 years ago when I first started this, I was with the Blonde BL03. That was my first purchase. And of course, because I make these videos, I get a lot of free stuff as well. So there's that. But yeah, that's the bottom line. Expensive products are nice to have, but they are not a necessity. So don't pressure yourself.
Is good audio basically a solved problem? I think that's a debatable question. I would say yes, good audio is basically a solved problem right now. I mean, if you see budget IEMs especially, they sound really good, You won't say it's a bad product. So the difference between a budget or expensive IEM is just like good versus technically advanced. So you can get a good sound in cheaper price also. But if I talk about different audio products, or if we also include headphones, speaker and everything, and we generally, if you have to judge just because of, based on this mostly right frequency response. So I would say there is a bit difference there because everyone has different ear size and shape. So how one person perceives the tonality of an audio product is a bit different than other person. So yes, I would say that apart from this thing, good audio is basically a solved problem. And we are just stressing out too much about small stuffs that, okay, how much the kick drum impact is there, or how much clear are we going to hear, the reverb fading out. If you want the more technically advanced one, you need to spend a lot. But in general, there are most products out there which sounds really good. Okay, that's it. Thank you for having me.
Now, to answer the question of whether or not I think good audio is basically a solved problem. Is there like one right frequency response for most people? Now, I do think that there is going to be a frequency response that more people would like. An example that's been studied is the harm and target. Although for me personally, I've tested buds that do follow the harm and target, and I don't really like them. This was an older bud, the Galaxy Buds 2 Pro. Now, do keep in mind, I'm definitely no expert on frequency responses. I'm more of like a feels audio reviewer. So there's always going to be some personal preference when it comes to what sound is going to be the best for a certain individual. Our ear anatomy also affects how we hear, and there's also psychological adaptation. So if we go back to when I first started reviewing earbuds just over 5 years ago, the sound I liked back then is pretty different to what I like now. I was a bit more of a bass head back in the day. Now I'm kind of like liking a more dynamic, slightly V-shaped sound, but appreciating that kind of flatter response as well. What I will say though is that nowadays, most earbuds give you a pretty solid stock tuning, even most budget earbuds. So I think as long as the stock tuning is pretty close to what you like, and you get at least a 5-band EQ, you're pretty much good to go. As I always say, if you don't like the stock tuning, you can only steer so far away from it using a band EQ or even a parametric EQ. So is good audio basically solved? I mean, sort of, but I think the fun of it is that it's never going to be solved. Otherwise, we'd never be going crazy about tiny differences in sound quality. It not being solved is kind of the fun part. Anyway, thanks again for having me on. Stay picky.
And for our final guest, Ash from C4E Tech, I modified the question a little bit. Ash does not care about audio the way we do. But listening to him talk about tech or YouTube is fascinating. He's always got interesting stuff to say, phenomenal insight. So I changed the question for him. I asked him, are smartphones a bit played out? If a mid-ranger smartphone can basically take care of the needs and in fact, even the wants of so many people, are we just nitpicking on the small stuff? And if so, then as a reviewer, what are we doing here? Like, a smartphone basically just a done thing and we should move on to the next form factor. What's happening here?
The answer is a very simple yes. Smartphones have peaked a few years back. Let's say go back 5-6 years and you get a very smooth experience on flagships. If you go down to the mid-range, it's not that smooth. And then we started getting high refresh rates and the hardware to power it and all that stuff. So about 4 or 5 years back, we got to a point where even mid-range phones were very smooth to use. So then the differentiating factor was cameras, gaming. And gaming with all the microtransactions and all the, the freemium model, I've not been a big gamer on phones. I do like emulating and stuff. And again, with that Switch emulation, you can do good Switch emulation on an 8 Plus Gen 1. So the last 4 years of upgrades haven't really added much to that. So from a performance perspective, you could say we've peaked. From a camera perspective, for the last 4 years, if you look at all these ultra phones, they've been using 1-inch sensors, and the sensor's only been like Sony's gotten one new generation of that sensor, I suppose. So that's basically it. From an optical hardware perspective, sensors aren't getting any larger, lens aperture isn't getting any faster. Now, a very simple way for me to answer this question, if I was done with YouTube today, if I stopped being a tech YouTuber, let's say I retired, what would I buy? What would I use as a phone for myself? Now, let's assume silicon carbon is not new and we've been getting silicon carbon batteries for the last 3 or 4 years. I would very happily buy a flagship phone from say 2 years back and use it for another 2-3 years. That's it. Because from a performance perspective, since I'm not a mobile gamer, I don't really see anything all that alluring. And from a hardware perspective, yes, there's 1 or 2 new gimmicks, new things that they've added. But outside of silicon carbon, there's really nothing that's been must-have for me from a tech perspective, from a pure hardware perspective. So yeah, smartphones have kind of peaked. And the one difference for me is just don't go for a lower mid-range phone. If you can buy a flagship from last year or the year before, that would be a better pick. That's one of the reasons why if any of you watch my channel, I don't really focus on a lot of mid-rangers these days because there's really nothing great about it. There's nothing really new happening. They've gotten to be really boring. So yeah, long answer to a simple question. Thanks for having me, Abhishek.
And now finally, to answer my own question, I think for the most part, good audio is more of a solved problem than a lot of people think. Yes, because we're in this bubble and we're looking at the finer stuff, we're getting carried away with the, oh, they haven't figured this out and that out. And it's true, it's not a completely solved problem. For the vast majority of people though, I think it is. You can get a phenomenal pair of Bluetooth earbuds, sub $500 now, that will pretty much take care of all your needs. And some of them are even really well tuned out of the box. They have that last 10% to go, but we're getting there so quickly that I feel like for most people it's almost there. And if you have EQ, and if you watch a few YouTubers, they'll give you a reasonable EQ setting to combat the perceived issues. And then you're pretty much there. Everything else is for the enthusiasts only. For the vast majority of the people, good audio, not just fun audio, but good audio, I think is solved for. This goes for headphones and speakers as well, although I think in headphones the implementation is a lot harder, which is why Resolved Reviews thinks, yeah, in practice it's not a thing. And I agree, in practice it's really hard to get a good pair of headphones tuned really well. Incredibly difficult thing. But we're getting there with DSP, we're getting there with modern technology. And for speakers, I mean, you can get phenomenal speakers for $500. And then after that, it's just about room treatment and a little bit of EQ. So yeah, I think for the most part, if you're willing to put in a little bit of effort, you can have such good audio now at such reasonable prices that I would consider it almost completely a solved problem. That is just my opinion. But there we have it. And smartphones, yeah, it's so boring to talk about smartphones these days because they're all pretty decent. Apart from all the little nitpicks we have, and we'll continue to nitpick, but I think they're pretty good. I think we're in a really good place, and I think we need to start looking at new form factors and new things altogether. But that's maybe a topic for another video. Is that a police car? And with that, we bring to an end 2025. There are a couple of other videos that I might release, but for those of you who made it to the end, I'm going to be taking a little break from YouTube. I've not exactly burnt out, it's just there's a lot on my plate in terms of my career, my day job, my family, and I don't think I'm able to put out content that I'm happy with, content that's really good out there. And for the last few months, I've been putting out the best I can, but I think it's not quite where I'd like it to be. So I'm going to take a little time away. I will still post the occasional short, maybe the occasional long form video if I find the time, but I'm going to be taking a little break. If you have memberships, if you want to cancel your membership, that's completely understandable. If you want to continue supporting me, then thank you, but you don't have to. And I'll see you when I'm back. Hopefully you're still there. All right, you have a lovely rest of the year. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and I'll see you in the next one. Stay happy, stay peaceful, stay colorful. Namaste.